Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sony Asia Post webinars. This is Thomas in Sony Hong Kong. I'm Sony Marketing Manager for Asia Pacific region. I'm in charge of production switcher and IP technology business. Thanks for joining with us, and let us update some information on our switcher new version features and remote production concept. Okay, let us get started. Let me recap our switcher XVS series from 6000 to 9000 models. Apart from that, we are launching our latest switcher XVS G1 in September, and we also have a section in this time's Asia Pulse webinar to introduce our G1. Please closely follow our information. If you have further interest, do not hesitate to contact us to Sony local offices or partners. Sony Switcher has been gaining much reputation about our stability and functionality. Today, we will further introduce its remote production concept and some new features. We will utilize virtual software to show you a complete demonstration of these new features. Virtual software is especially convenient during this COVID pandemic timing. You can log in XVS system from a remote location, another offices, or even your home, and utilizing virtual software to do switcher setting, pre-show configuration, or even effect preparation, and during configuration as well by virtual menu and virtual panel, or even on-show operation by the virtual shopbox. This is a simple conceptual workflow for your reference. Here, please note that you might need a multi-view output video to combine with your effect and setting preparation. In this case, you might need a third-party equipment, SDI to USB conversion device, or streaming solution to let you preview the PGM output at the remote site. Of course, if your system will utilize a higher spec of ST2110 IP technology, you can form a broadcast-grade remote production system. There are three utility software applications we call virtual software. The utility software is based on a web application. That's why it can be utilized in a remote network connection system. They are virtual menu, virtual panel, and virtual shopbox. This virtual software can create new flexible operation styles for switcher engineers or directors, producers, with using their tablets or PCs. Virtual menu and virtual panel are to replace physical units, and virtual shopbox can be a shortcut application to enhance your switcher production workflow. Of course, we allow users to use these applications simultaneously, so there are additional user licenses to be able to choose. For example, additional virtual menu license, additional virtual panel licenses. This is a standard XVS switcher system with hub switcher and remote aux panel integration. Basically, XVS processor, system control unit, device control unit are all connected. Also, of course, the panel are all connected with LAN cable to the hub. So each device has its own IP address, basically, under the same subnet VLAN configuration. And to be able to use the virtual software, after you activate your license in the control station, you only need to connect your PC to this subnet network environment. Then you can log into PWS SC1 switcher control station to call out the application in the web browser. Just type in the IP address. You can see another more advanced remote production setup in this diagram. An actual example with the processor and the panel in two different sites. Your show director might want to be at site or even at a remote place to produce a show, or even another place. Or engineer support comes from different locations, just like here shows. Under this remote production system, virtual software is very useful to prepare and set up the switchers. Also, it can act as a backup emergency operation in Site A, Site B, or Site C. Of course, there are various scenarios to utilize this system, but before that, you will need to know well about the virtual software and network settings. Speaking of network settings, Sony has done many tests and would like to recommend our clients to follow our system design. For example, a long-distance remote production setup where you might separate your processor and the panel or different kinds of purpose for systems. You are suggested to place 2 system control units at each location to sync each system and set up intergroup connections for switcher panels and processors. Of course, this structure also requires a layer 3 switching routing setting in the WAN network. So if you're interested in this kind of production concept, please come to us for further discussion. We will be glad to share more about our system setting requirements. This is a network gateway setting system diagram for XVS remote connection system. You can see 2 system control units to sync the signals. So you might need to know some of the network knowledge in order to set up a layer 3 network over the WAN environment for switcher system. And user LAN and system LAN 1 and LAN 2 are running the control data, but IP media running the videos also require a layer 3 network. So from here, you're entering the IP live world now. So you must understand we can get away from the internet IP network in our future. So we're not starting to study it. It's a whole new different world for broadcasters and video engineers. So I think you will belong to a different topics. Let us introduce you to in the future webinars. Okay, let us move on to the actual live demonstration of XVS new switcher, new features and virtual software. First, let me switch the share screen. Okay, basically I have set up the demo arrangement, as you might be able to see over here on my screen. On the bottom left hand side, this is actually the switcher output video, and you can see the multi-view over here. And in order to let you see the transition, you can see it's the output video. And on the right hand side, you can see our virtual menu and virtual panel on the other side. Okay, let's start from the beginning. When you log into our switcher SC1 control station, you just need to type in the IP address over here. So once you type in the IP address, you will see several categories for the detailed settings. I think engineers are familiar with this maintenance menu page. And this page contains a lot of detailed system configuration, including the switcher IP address, network settings, panel settings, or diagnosis, or your auction mode setting. Even some other advanced setting will be at this maintenance menu page. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. We don't discuss more about the maintenance menu. I think the engineers are quite familiar with that already. So when you log into SC1 remotely, just like the browser shows here, of course, you need to set up the menu, the license information for the virtual softwares, including virtual menu, virtual shopbox, and the virtual panel. Of course, you can have additional software to increase your user quantity. User account settings and the virtual menu setup, which it lets you to work with your physical panel or without the physical panel, without the X7011 model. So this, when you finish the setting, you can just jump into each virtual software section. So we'll go through that later, but I'd like to introduce some features about the this page. Resource share setup. So resource share setup is also a special feature for XVS after server version 3.0. You can start to separate the switcher resources to to two logical switchers. So here it says that physical switcher 1 can divide it to logical switcher 1 and logical switcher 2. And each logical switcher can set different format from HD to 4K. Well, of course, the other one has to be HD. And the frame rate is the same because you're using the same frame rate to run the processor, and also the references are also the same. And once you set up the different format for your production, probably it supports 2 studios or 2 productions, or 1 production with 2 Ultra HD and another one is HD output. You can do this kind of setting. It all applies to our every models of XVS series. And here is the detailed configuration for the resource sharing, including the input-output, mixed board, DME, frame memory source, and color background. Everything, the total resources can be set up, each one, by the configuration over here. So input-output, if you want to share the input-output or separate the input-output, can be done over here. So even the multi-view can be separate as well. So once you set up the logical resources for each switcher, and you can execute it, and once you execute it, you can enjoy 2 logical switcher productions to support your 2 studios or to support your 2 output formats. Another one is the file manager, and I already opened the file manager page. Actually, it's over here. It's just quite a simplified workflow to import the file frame memory. Personally, I like to use this one to import the frame memory because it's very intuitive, just like the computer input and output, and just import the your desired TIFF file or PNG files just right over here. Because sometimes when you use the menu panel, there's little limitations for the file folder names or the file structures. So this one would be more intuitive, more easier to operate. So this is the resource share page and also file manager page. So once we need to check in the virtual software, you can see virtual menu. So once you log into virtual menu, it lets you choose panel 1 or panel 2 with or without your physical panel. So I can choose the physical panel together with the virtual panel, virtual menu together. So when you see this one, it's actually the same as your operation menu on your 7011 model menu panel. However, well, basically everything is the same. You can just run every settings exactly what you do on your physical panel. There's no special issues, and even the keys over here, and you can see even the resizer locations. You can change the rotaries. Well, there's no rotary knob on the screens, so we set up this rotary control, screen control, to let you control the settings. Of course, you can always input the numbers over here. However, for virtual menu, there are some functions that you cannot use. For example, the file functions. File functions is disabled in the virtual menu part, and also macro function is also disabled for the virtual menu. Well, but if you really need to use exactly the same feature as our physical menu, you can choose the mirror mode. So once you choose the mirror mode, if you have a physical panel with you, it will jump into the same pages when you do the selection. So you need to be careful once you choose the mirror mode, because the actual on production menu will be simultaneously jump while you change the page. So you need to be very careful using the mirror mode. However, the mirror mode, you can actually see, you can use the file page to save the files, record the files, and also you can do the macros, macro edit, online, offline edit will be no problem. So mirror mode is also very convenient. So there's virtual menus. It's very simple introduction, and we will move on to the feature updates later. And let's move on to, hold on, let me jump in again. And I already set up the virtual panel over here. So the virtual panel here, you can see the whole virtual panel. This is a 3ME 36 or 28 cross-point button panels with dedicated modules for trebles, a shop box, and also 10 keypad. And everything is here, exactly the same as your control panel. It's exactly the operation is almost the same. You just can use mouse or you can use touch panel. But actually, when you need to log into virtual panel, actually you can do the module set. The module set can let you configure ME1, ME2, or ME3. And of course, you can do extension modules over here. I already set up the Unit 1 for 3ME. So once you display over here, you can see the Unit 1 has been already configured. Or you can choose to connect to Unit 2, which may have different settings. So when you log into Unit 1, so this is your operational menu, including PP, ME1, and ME2. And you can use this to resize your panel, or you can use this shortcut. And this shortcut will jump into the certain module, and the module will be fit on your screen. The module size will be fit on your screen. So it's very useful and very convenient. For me, myself, I use this to jump into the certain module, and I think it's quite convenient to use. And okay, on the bottom left side, you can see this multi-view output. Of course, you need to convert your switcher multi-view output to your computer, because I'm doing the webinar session in order to let you see the operation of my switcher. And of course, you need to see the PGN output. So already set up the input video right over here. I forgot, I tried to show you the frame memory clips right over here. So the auto transition right over here. So, yeah, so this is the frame memory. So the control is exactly the same. So it depends on what you're going to do for your virtual panel and virtual menu. You can do pre-show setting for the preparation or for engineering setup. Okay, so this is a simple introduction for the virtual software. So let's move on to some new updates for our switcher. So for switcher latest version, when you log into the menu, the system portion, of course, we support IP, MMOs as well. And of course, you want to set up the IP address to support the IP interfaces, and the MMOs information can be set up right over here as well. And JetLock part, you can see this is actually the PTP settings for the switcher part. And I think quite special part is the format portion. Of course, format portion is from HD to Ultra HD. We all support. Not only that, we also support SDR and also HDR OETF transfer function, including Ultra HD color space 2020 and 709, and payload ID can also be checked right over here. So this is for you to do the HDR production workflow. So you can utilize this setting to do more detailed production settings for the HDR. However, we also provide the HDR licenses to let you do the HDR conversion capability on the switcher if you want to use switcher as a conversion machine, or you can use external HDR conversion machine as well. But our switcher HDR conversion license will be incorporated with our HDR C4000, will be similar conversion capability. Okay. So this is the HDR part. And the startup portion, you can see quite a new feedback that once there's a frame memory resume check, resume status feature over here. So once you check the function, so you don't need to upload the frame memory every time you turn on the switcher. So it will be automatically loaded to the onboard memory on the SCS control station, and you don't need to do it manually anymore. So this is also a feature improvement from our users' feedback. So I like to believe you can improve your production workflow every time. So this is also a new feature for the frame memory resume. So speaking of the frame memory, Sony's frame memory are also quite powerful, as you might already know, that we have 20 channel frame memory over here. You can choose the pair mode, use the audio, can also be output. And I already set up 16 channel frame memory right over here. So I also has already did some frame memory. You can see my key one source is frame memory right over here. So when I choose the frame memory here and frame memory clip one transition, you can see the transition right away. So it's very intuitive control. So if you want to change the frame memory clip transition, so let me choose the mirror mode, and you can double click to jump into the certain page. Yes, so once you jump into clip transition page, you can even set up the transition timing to, because this is right now is using mix, so you can use change to wipe, and you can even change the timing of the start time of the transition. So right now, so even the transition time is different, so you can change the wipe direction from this direction to, I think we should change to, I think this direction. Okay, so once you change this direction, so it goes too fast, right? You can change to delay the timing of the, you can start over again, timing reset. So right now, you can timing will be similar. You can do a nice transition. But of course, you can do more detailed setting on the clip transition portion for the angles, for the transition timing, start time, end timing, you can set up over here. So this is to simply show you how our clip transition are very powerful to do the transitions. Okay, so this is the frame memory channel and transition portion. Of course, you can always set up the, for example, my frame memory right over here. You can see my channel, channel 5. Channel 5 frame memory, I already set up to play. I can stop it. So once I play it, you can set up loop and ping pong, or you can change the variable speed. The speed can change right over here with the rotary knob. Once I click here, you can change the rotary knob to fast or to this current, this highlight. I'm sorry, this is the speed. I can change the speed and play. I can change the speed to even slower. So this is how you control the menu like this. So I can play and change the speed to default 100. Okay, this is the frame rate clips. So the sequence file can also be played back right over here. So once you check the frame memory resume function, all the files in the frame memory capacity can be automatically uploaded to your processor's SSD memory every time you turn on the switcher processor. So it's quite convenient. Okay, so this is the frame, the menu portion for some updates. And let's move on to the cross point panel. The cross point panel right over here. Let me enlarge it. So cross point panel over here. On the right hand side, basically this is our customizable LCD cross point pad. This cross point pad, of course, this is once you set up the key bus mode, this one is key 1, and if you want to change to key 2, and you jump to key 2. You want to change to key 7, jumps to key 7. So this is the key bus mode. Well, if you want to change to key delegation mode, you can also change it in your switcher menu. And you can see here the display mode. I already changed to display the macro attach. So once you show the source or the macro attach macro, and I should check the source and the macro attach, and once you attach the macro, and once you click the button, the macro automatically run over there. Or you can set up some macro attached to your buttons, cross point buttons, for changing the multi-view or changing the source. Yeah, this is just macro attach feature for PP bus. And if you have multiple macro that you need to run at the same time, for example, PP and MU1 need to have multiple macro run at the same time, you can also set up in the switcher side. We have a new feature called switcher multi-macro setting. Let me check where is it. Multi-macro. setting. Okay. Operation. Yes, macro. You can see the multi-macro mode. You can turn on the multi-macro mode, and then you can simultaneously run multiple macros at the same time. Okay, so this is the panel update for the switcher crosspoint panels. Just also, one thing I'd like to add on is for when you use the virtual panel, because sometimes our operation on the physical panel, you need to use two fingers to do the memory. For example, you need to set up a macro, you need to have two fingers, but on the panel right now, you have to use the mouse, right click on the mouse to set up the macro. So the macro will be able to set a new macro over here. For example, I'm taking the macro 2. You can start to do the macro. I will have to cancel it. It's just right over here. So this is just a small tip so for you to operate the virtual panel. Okay, so for the switcher portion, and switcher portion also because we have also switcher part. You can see the input format conversion. I'd like to mention again. A lot of customers ask about our format conversion function because we provide input format converter for all the input, or you can select the internal format converter. The internal format converter, they are 16 channels. You can select FC adjust, and you can choose A for input, or 4 for input, or O for output, depends on your setting. So once you don't have the format conversion input board, you can use the internal format converter board to support your format conversion at the input side, or you can use it at the output side for all 16 channel. So this is the update for our switcher latest version, XVS 6000 to 7000 and 9000 series. So I'm utilizing the virtual software to introduce you some basic and latest function of our switcher, and it's very convenient for you to do some pre-show setting like this. And if you want to do some demo or some training over the network, and or do some remote production settings. So once there is any chance for us to discuss more about the remote production settings, I would like to set up another time with you to discuss more, and also show you how we set up two locations switcher settings. Okay, so that's it for today's introduction and webinar, and thank you for your time. Okay, bye-bye.